Hello, this is Dale the Librarian bringing you a few tools that you can use to get a good lit review in a shorter amount of time than if you just kind of muddled through on your own. This is really good for somebody who's never done a lit review either. Literature reviews can be painful, let me be honest about that. But these are some tools that can help you get through it. First of all, we're at the Marriott Library homepage. You can't see my tabs, but I want to show you Zotero. So we have a Google search just so you can see how it's spelled. Zotero is an open source, free, I don't know how they make their money, maybe gathering data, who knows. But be that as it may, let's assume that we trust them at this point. If you go to Google and Zotero, what you're going to want to do is three things. One, when you first show up at Zotero, if you make an account, they store a lot of the data from your citations up on the web. So if you wanted to access Zotero, it's on all the lab computers at the Marriott Library, so you can log in. There's also a phone access to it if you're going about that way. I haven't had as great luck with that, but there's also, you can move from computer to computer. So if you have like a laptop that you use for school and then there's a desktop at home, those Zotero accounts will synchronize with each other. So you're always on top of things. It's really kind of fun. When you go to download, there are two things that you need to do. One, I'm on a Mac. This works for PC. I imagine it opens for Linux and open source as well. You want to download the client file, something that's going to live on the desktop, and you also want to make the connector. The connector does not show up in a dramatic way. It's this little icon on my browser, but that's what allows you to grab the data and dump it into your Zotero application, which I'll show you in just a moment. So those are three things: login, the application for your desktop, and the connector that goes into your browser. Let me show you Zotero, what it looks like. Da-da-da-da. When you're in Zotero, this is a citation management thing, and you have your folders that you put together here. The folders you can name arbitrarily. You can nest the folders, I just found out. There's unfiled items if you're not in a folder at the time. But if you were doing a project, ostensibly you would call it. So I have mine as information seeking behavior and community. I'm interested in that aspect of how you can foster community to help people. I won't go into my librarian thing. But what you have is you have a set of articles that you have added automatically. So the metadata that you can see will be whatever metadata was available on that article at the time. And it throws it in here as best it can. But sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong. You get to pick. So be careful when it's machine generated. But you get to drive what goes into this level of the folder. So let's make a new folder. So if you click on this little icon over here, you can create a new collection. So I'm going to do homelessness, just in general. When you do that, it will put it wherever your focus was in the screen, so you could bring it down. Oh, maybe I can't. Oh yeah, there. So I just nested it under community and camaraderie. But you should be able to plonk it wherever you wish. Oh God, the video falls apart right here. I'm not going to re-edit this thing. Okay, so let's assume that's what I wanted to do. That's not the point of my video. There's a million Zotero videos. I apologize for that. So let's cite something. When you are in focus of a particular folder, that's where your metadata is going to go. So you have this open. So I'm going to go over here to the library catalog, which is called View Search. I'm going to do homelessness and cities. This is going to give me probably thousands of results. But it doesn't matter if you're on the open web, if you're in a database. So say, for example, I want to, that one actually looks pretty good. I accidentally found something good. When you click on something, you are given what's called a record in library speak. This is the metadata. It's the information about the object that you were looking at. So it's like the title, the author, publication date. All of this stuff shows up differently in different applications, depending on what you're looking at. But that metadata is there to be captured. So remember, we have Zotero here. And when you're in a page, if you go up to your Zotero, what is it? The Zotero connector. And you just click once, and it says saving to. It's actually already done it. So we go back over to Zotero, and all that metadata is in here. So let's grab a couple more. So I'm going to go into a research database. Let's do communication. Oh, let me show you. Let's go back to subject. Let's go to all the communication databases. So communication mass media complete shows it right there. I'm going to do homeless and rural instead of cities. Images of oppression. Can you trust a homeless man? Health literacy in the hills. That's actually pretty interesting too. You know, it's funny how you accidentally find stuff that's good. So here we have metadata. Again, it doesn't matter how complete or incomplete it is. You get to edit that after you go, but we're going to go back up here and add that. We're adding it to that homelessness folder. And we go over here, and there's another one. There's a little arrow here. What happened is some of the databases will dump in extra stuff for you, depending on. You can omit that if you want, but they want to help you find your data. One last thing, I'm going to go to government websites. This is Salt Lake City. I'm going to do homeless, just to gather my searches. So I'm interested in public policy. Oh, there's a site evaluation commission. And this was done last April. So it's housing related. This is an interesting one, isn't it? So the metadata isn't just right in that right spot where you can see it, but it's kind of spread broadcast. So we have maybe like an author, contact information. There might be dates elsewhere. Let's cite this one and see what happens. So this is just an open website. Site Evaluation Commission. And look at this. So this is the date that I pulled the quote, and there's not as much metadata as when you compare it to the other ones. So this is where you might run into those problems where you would have to edit the last and first name. And all you'd have to do is just click on there. I did not write this. Totally not taking credit for it. But you can edit the moments like this. If you have like an APA style and you have to put all the titles in lowercase, that's how you would do that as well. So each one of these are editable. If you call them up and you say, hey, what date did you publish this web page? You could go in and put that date in whatever format you wanted to. Okay? What you do at this point is you can cite all three of these by right-clicking if you're on a PC, or selecting all and control-clicking, and then you do export items, create bibliography. You could create a report. There's all sorts of cool stuff that you can do with this. But if you wanted to create a bibliography, the neat thing is there's IEEE in here as well. I think that one's rather rare to find different things like this, but the typical ones are going to be in here, MLA, APA, that sort of thing. And then down here, you can save it as citations exclusively, bibliography. RTF is what you would use if you wanted to export to Word. If you have Word open, or sometimes some other files, you can drag the whole thing off into an open Word document and it will populate in the correct style. I haven't had great luck working with that, so oftentimes I'll just do copy to clipboard. What I want to show you now is how to narrow and deduplicate and make a narrative and build that literature review. So ostensibly, if you had a requirement of like 10 articles, you would want to find 20 and dump them in here. What do you do when you have that many though? Something that we've run into, let me go back to this. Something that we've run into with sociology, and social work professors in the past is we'll have students that have what they feel is a brilliant bibliography, but literally what they're doing is they're making the same point 8 times in a row. So they're saying homelessness is bad, homelessness is bad, homelessness is bad, homelessness is bad, but they don't give you any of the other points of view. They don't give you history. How do you get around that? One problem that we have in scholarship is there's a lot of duplication. So somebody might make a point, and then somebody might make a point that's just ever so slightly next to it. And so you have a whole bunch of them that generally make the same point. What you would like to do in a good literature review is touch on major categories, especially if you only have 10 citations. How do you get around that? You actually have to engage with the articles by reading a little bit and finding a quote. So this is what I call making a narrative, and it's not too bad. The recipe that I have, so this one, Information Grounds as a Vehicle for Social Inclusion. What I did is, again, right-click or control-click, you can add a note. When you add a note, it'll be just a blank thing where you can just type in whatever you want. What I would recommend, if you wanted to make a literature review and try and find those connections and distinctions between all the articles that you found and narrow it down to the requirements, is as follows. You're going to have to read like the first page of the article, excuse me, and what I would do is summarize the main point in one sentence or less. So imagine your grandma all of a sudden comes up and says, what do you mean Information Grounds is a vehicle for social inclusion? And then my main point here is people, migrant workers, for example, who don't know the majority language are at a major disadvantage. And so it's hard for them to seek information. And then grandma would go, oh, okay, that makes sense. Simplify it as much as you can. It should be easily done. If you can't do it, pick a different article. Once you've done that, though, then find a quote. This is great for annotated bibliographies. Find a quote that agrees with what you just said. And then I threw in keywords. If I found anything technical, I just wanted to add that as I do my literature review. Okay, so the main thing you want to do, read the article, make a main point in your words, and then find from the first page or so the author agreeing with you in some way in a single sentence quote. And then all of a sudden your annotated bibliography starts taking off and you start building those distinctions and you can start omitting some and adding some. So what does this look like when we're all done? Let me show you the word. So I'm going to select everything. I'm going to right-click or control-click, and I'm going to say export items. No, I don't want to export. Let's create a bibliography. Oops, my Word is opening at the same time. Create a bibliography. I want to do, oh, I'm already in MLA. I want to copy to clipboard. Ooh, I can choose a different language. Ooh, the temptation. And then I just click OK. And now I have my blank document. It's copied to the clipboard. It's going ever so slow. Oh, it's painful. Okay, then I'm going to do Control V or Edit Paste. Da, 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 da. I don't get to pick the font. You can change the font and things like that. But it does the double spacing. It gives you the document object identifier, all those different things that your instructors are looking for. The one thing I would caution you on is you want to make sure that the styles are correct and if there's any information omitted. But this is a great place to start, isn't it? If you have any questions, I would be delighted to work with you. Just send me an email at dale.larson@utah.edu. I hope you have a nice weekend and keep me in mind as you go throughout the rest of your semester. I am your librarian and I'd be happy to help you out. Have a good one. Okay, I'm trying to stop the video. Bye.